Sometimes the most terrifying truth hides not in a phone, but in the eyes of a person who looks at you and lies. I had been working as a bartender at a cozy pub in downtown Tucson for 5 years. I loved my job, the interaction with people, the chance to be part of their evenings, sometimes joyful, sometimes sad. The regulars knew me by name and I knew their stories. There was something comforting about the rhythm of pouring drinks, mixing cocktails, listening to people talk about their days. It felt like honest work and it paid decent money for our family. Camilla worked as a shoot coordinator, often traveling to various projects across Arizona. We got married in the fall 8 years ago when we were both in our early 20s. Back then, it seemed like everything was ahead of us, that together we could overcome any difficulties. We were young, in love, and naive enough to believe that love alone would be enough to carry us through life. We had 2 children, 6-year-old Matthew and 4-year-old Roxana. We lived in a 3-bedroom apartment on the north side of the city, nothing fancy, but cozy and filled with the warmth of family life. Our Labrador, Rudolph, always greeted everyone at the door, wagging his tail enthusiastically. He was part of the family too, a gentle giant who loved the kids and slept at the foot of our bed every night. My salary at the bar was decent. We were middle class, could afford vacations once a year, children's entertainment, and a normal life without excesses. Nothing luxurious but comfortable. We had everything we needed, a roof over our heads, food on the table, and 2 healthy, happy children. What more could anyone ask for? Camilla had always been energetic and ambitious. She loved her job, although the schedule could be unpredictable. Shoots, locations, constant calls, this was her world. I was proud of her because she was building a career in an industry where it's hard to break through. The film and television production world is competitive, and she was making her mark. In the evenings, we would put the children to bed together, watch series, discuss plans for the weekend. It all seemed so normal, so perfect. Winter in Tucson is mild, but that December was unusually cool. The temperatures dropped into the 40s at night, and we actually had to use our heater regularly. Camilla started traveling to Phoenix more often. She said there were shoots for a big project and she needed to coordinate work on site. Phoenix is about 120 kilometers away, an hour-and-a-half drive. At first it was once a week, then twice, then more often. She would return late, tired, and I tried not to burden her with questions. But something started to feel wrong. It wasn't that she changed outwardly or became cold. On the contrary, she was overly attentive, as if trying to compensate for something. She brought home small gifts for the kids, cooked elaborate dinners when she was home, seemed almost too eager to please. The children asked why Mommy was leaving so often, and she explained to them about important shoots, about how she was working on something really special that would help their family. I believed her. Why wouldn't I believe a wife I'd lived with for 8 years? We had built a life together, raised 2 children, weathered the normal ups and downs of marriage. There had never been a reason to doubt her before. Sure, we had our arguments like any couple. Disagreements about money, about whose turn it was to do the dishes, about what to watch on TV. But nothing serious. Nothing that made me question the foundation of our relationship. The first real suspicions appeared in mid-January. The winter sun was setting early, and the evenings felt longer and lonelier. Camilla said she was going to Phoenix for 2 days because she needed to finish editing work. I called her in the evening to ask how things were going, and I heard noise in the receiver that sounded like music from a bar or restaurant. There was laughter in the background, the clinking of glasses, the unmistakable atmosphere of a social gathering. She said she was sitting in the hotel working. When I asked about the noise, she answered that it was the TV in the neighboring room. The answer was quick, too quick. There was a slight edge to her voice, a defensiveness that hadn't been there before. I let it go, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The next time, she mentioned that she met with a producer named Laura to discuss the budget. But a week earlier, when I casually asked about Laura, she looked surprised and asked, "Who?" These little things started to accumulate like snow on a roof, unnoticed until it becomes too heavy. I found myself keeping mental notes of these inconsistencies, even as I tried to push them out of my mind. I started paying more attention to the small details. The way she checked her phone constantly, even during family dinners. The way she would step outside to take calls, claiming it was work-related. The way she seemed distracted when I talked to her, as if her mind was somewhere else entirely. And most tellingly, the way she avoided my eyes when she talked about her trips to Phoenix. One evening in February, when Camilla went to Phoenix again, I stayed alone with the children. It was a typical evening. I made them dinner, helped Matthew with his homework, gave Roxana a bath, read them both bedtime stories. Matthew asked if he could watch cartoons on Mommy's tablet because his had run out of charge. I agreed and took the tablet from the bedside table. It was an innocent request and I thought nothing of it. Opening the app for children, I accidentally saw a message that popped up at the top. Can't wait for tomorrow. You're incredible, Jim. The words seemed to burn into my eyes. Jim. I froze. Who is Jim? Camilla had never mentioned anyone with that name. Not once in all our conversations about work, about her projects, about the people she worked with. I could have ignored it, told myself it was a colleague. But something inside told me otherwise. The children fell asleep and I sat on the couch, holding her phone, which she had forgotten at home. Usually she never forgot it. That phone was like an extension of her arm, always within reach, always buzzing with notifications. The fact that she'd left it behind seemed almost like fate, like the universe was telling me to look. I knew the password, Matthew's birthday. My heart was pounding as I entered the numbers. The phone unlocked. I opened the messenger and saw a conversation with Jim. Messages went back 3 months. Are you coming today? Can't wait to see you again. I like the way you look at me. Each message was a knife in my chest, twisting deeper and deeper. Then there were photos. Not explicit but clear enough. They were hugging in some bar, laughing, sitting too close to each other. In one photo, his arm was around her waist. In another, she was looking up at him with an expression I recognized. It was the same way she used to look at me in our early days together. That hurt more than anything else. I scrolled through the conversation and with each message I felt something inside me go cold. Jim wrote that he missed her when she was in Tucson. She replied that she did too, that she wished she could be with him more often. She used pet names for him, things like babe and handsome. Terms of endearment that should have been reserved for me. I found his profile on social media. Jim, 32 years old, private security guard, lives in Phoenix. In the photos he was tall, athletic, with a short haircut and a confident smile. His profile indicated that he worked on film sets, providing security at locations. So that's how they met. He was part of her work world, someone she saw regularly, someone who was there during those long days on set while I was home taking care of our children. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you. I will continue the story. Camilla returned the next day. I met her as if nothing had happened. It took every ounce of self-control I had to act normal, to smile, to ask about her day. She kissed the children, told them stories about the shoot, showed them pictures of the equipment and the sets. She seemed so normal, so loving, so much like the woman I married. But now I knew it was all a performance. She told me about her day, about the challenges on set, about a difficult director she had to deal with. She talked about the weather in Phoenix, about the traffic on the way back, about a new restaurant she'd tried. All lies, or at least half-truths. Was there even a shoot? Or was the entire project just an elaborate cover story for her affair? I watched her, trying to understand how a person could lie so long and so skillfully. She could. She was good at it. Frighteningly good. I put her phone back where she'd left it, and she didn't even suspect that I'd looked at it. That night, she fell asleep quickly, exhausted from her work. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was sleeping next to a stranger. The following weeks I gathered information. I felt like a detective in my own home and I hated it. But I needed to know the full extent of what was happening. I checked statements from the bank card. She really did frequently fill up gas on the way to Phoenix, paid for hotels, ate at restaurants. The expenses were adding up, and I realized we'd been effectively funding her affair. But why had she never invited me to come with her? Before, when there were shoots somewhere nearby, she sometimes took me and the children on weekends, showed us the locations. It had been fun. The kids loved seeing the cameras and equipment, and I enjoyed seeing Camilla in her element. Now, only excuses. It's too far for the kids. The schedule is unpredictable. Maybe next time. I asked once, maybe we can go to Phoenix as a family on the weekend? The children haven't seen shoots in a long time. She quickly replied that now is not the best time, that there's a strict regime on set, outsiders are not allowed. Another lie. I could see it in the way her eyes shifted, in the way she busied herself with cleaning the kitchen as she spoke, avoiding looking at me directly. I started noticing that money was disappearing faster than usual. We had always shared finances. Both worked, both contributed to the general budget. It was a partnership, or so I thought. But in recent months, her salary somehow evaporated quickly. She said she was spending on work needs, on gas, on lunches with clients. More lies. I started saving money separately, buying bearer securities. Something told me I needed to protect myself financially. I wasn't sure what was coming, but I knew it wouldn't be good. One evening in early March, I couldn't take it anymore. The children were asleep, Rudolph was lying by the fireplace, and we were sitting in the kitchen over tea. The apartment was quiet, peaceful. It felt like a cruel joke, this domestic tranquility that masked such betrayal. I asked simply, "Who is Jim?" Her face changed instantly. First surprise, then fear, then an attempt to maintain calm. It was like watching a mask crack and then hastily being put back in place. "What are you talking about?" she asked quietly. Her voice trembled slightly. "About Jim with whom you've been texting for 3 months. About Jim whom you've been going to Phoenix to see under the guise of work." My voice was calmer than I expected. Inside I was screaming, but outwardly I remained composed. She was silent. Then she cried. Real tears streaming down her face. She said it meant nothing, that she got confused, that he was just there when things were difficult for her. Difficult from what? From me? From our family? She couldn't answer. She just kept crying and saying, "I'm sorry," over and over again like a broken record. I asked if she loved him. She shook her head. "No. It's just, I don't know what it is." That answer told me everything. She had blown up our lives, hurt me and our children for something she couldn't even name. For excitement? For attention? For the thrill of something new? "Do you love me?" My question hung in the air. It was the most important question, and I was terrified of the answer. The pause was too long. Way too long. If she loved me, she would have answered immediately, emphatically. But she didn't. "I don't know, Marc. Honestly." Those words destroyed me more than the discovery of the affair. 8 years together, 2 children, a shared home, and she didn't know if she loved me. In that moment I realized it was all over. Not because she had cheated, people make mistakes, people can be forgiven. But because she didn't know if she loved me. That uncertainty told me that whatever we'd had was already dead, had probably been dead for a while. I just hadn't seen it until now. The next day I called my friend Matthew, who worked as a lawyer. Yes, same name as my son. It had always been a running joke between us. I told him the situation. He advised me to gather evidence, record financial expenses, prepare for divorce. He was professional, efficient, walking me through what I needed to do to protect myself and my children. I took screenshots of the conversations, saved statements from the card, recorded dates of trips. I documented everything methodically, like I was building a case, which I suppose I was. Camilla meanwhile tried to make excuses. She said she would break off relations with Jim, that she would no longer go to Phoenix. She promised to be better, to focus on our family, to make things right. But I no longer believed her. Trust was destroyed, and I didn't see the point in trying to restore it. It wasn't just about Jim, it was about the months of lies, the betrayal, the way she'd looked me in the eye every single day and deceived me. I told her I wanted a divorce. She begged me to give her a chance, got down on her knees in our kitchen, clutching my hands. She said she'd do anything, go to therapy, quit her job, move to a different city. But I was unwavering. Some things can't be fixed with promises. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. The divorce was officially filed in April. My lawyer presented all the evidence of infidelity and financial expenses on trips to the lover. Because of this, the court took my interests into account when dividing property. The apartment stayed with me, most of the savings too. It wasn't about revenge or greed, it was about protecting my children's future. They needed stability, and I was determined to provide it. The children stayed with me. Camilla agreed that right now it was difficult for her to provide them with stability. She was looking for a new apartment, a new job, trying to piece together a life that she'd shattered. She could see them on weekends, supervised at first, and I didn't try to poison them against her. They deserved to have a relationship with their mother, even if I no longer wanted one with my wife. But the most interesting part began after information about the betrayal reached their shared industry. I didn't spread it intentionally, but someone from mutual acquaintances found out, and rumors spread quickly. In the world of film and television, reputation is everything. A shoot coordinator who had an affair with a security guard on set? It became the subject of conversations at industry events, in production offices, in the group chats that Camilla had once been part of. People talked. They always do. And in an industry built on relationships and trust, her actions cast doubt on her professionalism. If she couldn't be trusted in her personal life, could she be trusted to manage a multi-million-dollar production schedule? Fair or not, that's how people thought. Camilla started losing orders. Producers didn't want to work with her because they feared unprofessionalism. She was fired from the big project she'd been working on for the last few months. She tried to find new work, but doors were closing one after another. Phone calls went unreturned. Emails received polite but firm rejections. Her reputation in the industry was in tatters, and in that world, reputation is nearly impossible to rebuild. And Jim? It turned out he was also married. His wife found out about the cheating almost at the same time I did. They also got divorced. The affair had destroyed 2 families, left 4 people devastated, and affected multiple children. For what? For some excitement? For a few stolen moments in hotel rooms and bars? Camilla hoped that at least she would stay with him, that there would be something meaningful to show for all the destruction. But Jim quickly disappeared from her life. He didn't want a serious relationship, he was just interested in the thrill. When everything was revealed, when it stopped being secret and exciting, he just moved on to the next thing. She was nothing special to him, just another affair, another notch on his belt. Camilla was left alone. Without work, without a lover, without a family. She rented a small room on the outskirts of Phoenix because everyone knew her in Tucson. She couldn't walk into a store or restaurant without seeing someone she knew, someone who had heard the story. The shame was too much, so she ran. But you can't run from yourself. Sometimes she called, asked to see the children. I didn't forbid it, they loved her and I didn't want to deprive them of their mother. Whatever she'd done to me, she was still their mom. But meetings were rare and tense. The children felt the awkwardness, the distance. Roxana once asked me why mommy looked sad all the time. I didn't know how to answer that without making Camilla the villain, so I just said that sometimes grown-ups go through difficult times. Matthew and Roxana asked why mommy didn't live with us anymore. I said that sometimes adults can't be together, but that doesn't mean they don't love their children. The children nodded, but I could see how difficult it was for them to understand. How do you explain adult betrayal and its consequences to children so young? How do you help them process feelings that you're still struggling to process yourself? Rudolph, our Labrador, also felt the changes. He missed Camilla, sat by the door waiting for her. Dogs don't understand divorce or betrayal, they just know that someone they loved is gone. But over time he got used to the new order, to the fact that now there were only 4 of us at home. He became more attached to me and the children, as if sensing that we needed his comfort more than ever. I continued working at the bar. My colleagues supported me, understood what I had been through. Some had gone through similar situations themselves. Apparently, infidelity is more common than I'd ever realized. One of the waitresses, Laura, sometimes helped me with the children when there was no one to pick them up from school. Nothing more, just friendly support. I wasn't ready for anything beyond that, and she understood. 6 months passed after the divorce. I still couldn't say that I'd completely let go of the situation, but life was settling down. The children adapted, a new rhythm was established in the apartment. I learned to cook dishes that Camilla used to make, started spending more time with the children. We developed our own routines, our own traditions. Friday night was pizza and movie night. Saturdays we went to the park. Sundays were for pancakes and lazy mornings. Camilla called in October. She said it was very difficult for her, that she had lost everything because of her stupidity. Her voice on the phone sounded hollow, defeated. I didn't feel pity or joy from her words, only emptiness. The anger had faded, replaced by a kind of numbness. I answered that everyone is responsible for their actions. She started crying, said she wanted to get me back, that she'd made a terrible mistake. But how can you return something that no longer exists? The Marc and Camilla who had gotten married 8 years ago were gone. They died the moment I saw those messages on her phone. Even if I wanted to forgive her, even if I wanted to try again, we couldn't go back to who we were. Too much had been broken. Too much trust had been destroyed. Camilla, I said calmly, you made your choice. Now live with the consequences. I made my choice, to live on without you. My words were harsh but necessary. She needed to understand that there was no going back, no second chance, no magical fix that would restore what she'd destroyed. She was silent on the line. I could hear her breathing, could imagine the tears on her face. Then she quietly said goodbye and hung up. That was the last time we spoke as adults, not as parents of children. Our communication after that was strictly about logistics. Pickup times, doctor's appointments, school events. Nothing personal. Nothing that required us to be more than co-parents. Winter came to Tucson again. Cold evenings when I put the children to bed and sat on the couch with a cup of coffee. Rudolph lay at my feet and I thought about how life had changed in a year. About trust that's so easy to destroy and so hard to rebuild. About how sometimes the people you love most can cause the greatest pain. About how the person you share your bed with can be a complete stranger. But I also thought about the fact that life goes on. That children grow up happy despite everything. That I had found the strength in myself to start all over again. That revenge doesn't always have to be active. Sometimes it's enough just to let go of a person and allow them to face the consequences of their own decisions. Camilla lost everything not because I planned something. She lost everything because she destroyed with her own hands what mattered. Her career, her family, her relationship with Jim, everything collapsed like a house of cards from a breath of wind. I didn't have to do anything except stand back and watch it happen. The truth was its own revenge. And me? I was left with the children, with the home, with a life that continued. It wasn't a victory, it was survival. But sometimes survival is the best you can hope for after your world is turned upside down. I was still standing, still functioning, still being a good father to my children. That was enough. Matthew asked me one evening, "Dad, do you still love Mom?" I thought about the answer. It was a complicated question, one I'd been asking myself for months. I loved her, I said honestly. But sometimes love isn't enough, son. Sometimes people do things after which love can't remain the same. He nodded as if he understood, even though he was only 7 years old. Children are smarter than we think. They sense things, understand more than we give them credit for. I hoped that by being honest with him, by not hiding my pain but also not poisoning him against his mother, I was teaching him something valuable about life and relationships. Spring came to Arizona with warmth and flowers. The desert bloomed in ways that never ceased to amaze me. I started feeling joy again from simple things, from the children's laughter, from morning coffee, from the way Rudolph jumped joyfully when I returned home after a shift. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And that was enough. I started dating again cautiously. Nothing serious, just coffee dates here and there. I wasn't ready for anything major, and I was honest about that. Some women understood, some didn't. That was okay. I was learning to be just Marc again, not Marc and Camilla. It was strange being single after so many years, but also liberating in a way. The children thrived. Matthew excelled in school, showed an interest in science. Roxana was artistic, always drawing pictures that I proudly displayed on the refrigerator. They asked about their mother less frequently, had adjusted to the new normal of weekend visits and separate homes. It wasn't ideal, but it was stable, and stability was what they needed most. I saw Camilla occasionally during child exchanges. She looked different, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, her confidence gone. She'd found work eventually, but nothing like what she'd had before. She was doing freelance production assistant work, taking whatever jobs she could get. The industry hadn't completely blacklisted her, but her days of coordinating major projects were over. She never asked about getting back together after that October phone call. Maybe she'd finally accepted that it was truly over. Or maybe she'd just given up. I didn't ask, and she didn't volunteer the information. Our interactions were brief, polite, and entirely focused on the children. It was better that way. A year after the divorce was finalized, I was at the bar one evening when a regular customer asked me how I was doing. He'd heard bits and pieces of my story over the months, had been a sympathetic year when I needed to talk. "I'm doing okay," I told him, and realized I meant it. I really was okay. Not great, not perfect, but okay. And after everything that had happened, okay felt like a victory. The truth is, betrayal doesn't just hurt in the moment. It changes you. Makes you question everything you thought you knew about love, about trust, about the person you married. But it also teaches you about your own strength, about your capacity to survive, about what really matters. My children mattered. My integrity mattered. My ability to rebuild mattered. Camilla's story ended differently than mine. She never fully recovered from the consequences of her choices. The lost career, the lost family, the realization that Jim had never really cared about her. It all took its toll. She told me once, during a child exchange, that she'd been going to therapy, trying to understand why she'd done what she'd done. I told her I hoped it helped her. I meant it. Not for my sake, but for our children's sake. They deserved a mother who was whole, even if she couldn't be my wife. Looking back, I sometimes wondered if there were signs I'd missed, red flags I'd ignored. But the truth is, people are good at hiding what they want to hide. Camilla had been living a double life for months, and she'd done it convincingly. That wasn't my failure, it was hers. I'd been a faithful husband, a good father, an honest partner. I had nothing to be ashamed of. The apartment felt more like home now than it ever had when Camilla lived there. We'd rearranged furniture, painted some walls, made it our own, mine and the children's. We'd created new memories that weren't tainted by betrayal. Rudolph had his favorite spots, the children had their routines, and I had my peace. It was a good life, a simple life, an honest life. Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.